Now, let's have a brief introduction to the world of capital project appraisal. First of all, we need to know what is a capital project and what do we mean by the appraisal of a capital project. Just as a simple thing, whenever I have to define a capital project, one, they have an initial expenditure, which is a very huge expenditure, and once they are operational, so there might be an initial period which is the development period, and once they become operational, it's purely the operational revenues that are coming up versus the operational expenses which come at regular intervals of time. These kind of projects, initially there is a very huge initial capital outflow, and after that on a regular period there are revenues and expenses which are more operational in nature, and towards the end there could be a kind of a termination related costs also wherever applicable. So it need not involve the construction. See, we generally hear that it is more and more applicable to construction projects, but not necessary. Even something like a purchase of a huge machinery, even that is a capital project. Or probably I going ahead with geographical expansion, even that is a capital project. So it need not involve the construction of a physical asset. And what we generally do in any capital project understanding is we perform a thorough cost benefit analysis. And to a large extent, we try to look at what are the various alternate projects that are available and try to use the concept of time value of money to evaluate the benefits that are associated with each of these projects. And to a large extent, the capital projects require a huge investment, which means there is a heavy financing that is very much required. And majority of the cases, even if it is an internal source of finance or an external source of finance. What is an internal source? Probably from my profits, I can do a retained earnings. That would be an internal source of finance. Or I may get some new shares. That new shares is still an external source of finance. So either I can get it as a loan or I can get it as an equity. So both of them will become my internal so external source of finance. So whatever, whether I am going with an external source or internal source, there is a cost associated with them. And that is what we are calling as the cost of the capital that is really required to undertake a capital project. And in general, it is expressed in the form of an annual rate. Something very much necessary for understanding a capital project. And with any capital project, there is an initial appraisal process that is performed using various mechanisms. Probably there are so many mathematical formulas and tools which guide the usage of the appropriate mechanisms for evaluating a capital project. But whatever is the mechanism for evaluating a capital project, the main intention is to ascertain, to make sure that the project that I am taking up is meeting the criteria. It's basically like a feasibility analysis, right? Is it likely to satisfy the criteria which is being set up by the person or the entity who is sponsoring? So they want to sponsor for a project, they want to give a capital for the project. So I want to know whether this capital is going to give me the intended benefits that have been set up as a part of the initial evaluation document. And all these criteria generally expressed in the form of financial results in terms of, okay, return should be greater than something, or the risk should be less than something. So it could be expressed purely in form of risk and return, which is what risk and return, which is what the pure financial terms for the same look like. Apart from that, there could be various other initial criteria also. Is it really gelling with the overall objective of the organization? What is the synergy this extra new project carries with the overall portfolio of the projects that are undertaken by the company? What is the compatibility with the other projects? Are there any political constraints? Does it have the sufficient upside potential? What is the chance that if things go well, what is the maximum profit that can be generated out of this particular project? Are the resources that are being used, whether it is human resources or monetary resources or management resources or whosoever it is, are the resources utilized in a very appropriate and an effective manner? All these things would really go for evaluation when we are doing an initial appraisal. And only when a project really meets almost all these criteria quite effectively, that project will go for a take up. And at the same time, okay, what are the different kinds of risks that can be encumbered? To what is the possibility or what could be the blocking factors which can really stop the return? Where the criteria may not be met, all those risks would be identified and the appropriate courses of action will be taken up. And whatever are the residual, after taking up all the necessary mitigation plan, whatever are the risks that are still staying, they are called as the residual risks. So we are listing out all these residual risks after enough care has been taken to try to reduce the impact of the various risks. Whatever are the risks that are still outstanding, we categorize them as residual risks and we list them for the purpose of shareholders, for the purpose of creditors, for the purpose of any other investor, for that matter, any external stakeholder, so that whatever the investment decision that they are taking, whatever the lending decision they are going to take, they are going to take an informed decision. And if we look at this process, it cannot be done in one single go. Understanding all the possible future cash flows, evaluating all possible scenarios, good, bad, economy fluctuation, incorporating each and every possible futuristic scenario is going to take a very heavy exercise. So because it's very expensive, generally it is done in an iterative manner. So a quick initial appraisal is performed and only when the quick initial appraisal is satisfactory and the effort is justified, then only we are going ahead with the more and more advanced complex evaluation mechanisms. And as a part of every project, before we perform the appraisal, we have to be very clear on the scope of the project. Where is it starting? Where is it ending? What are covered as a part of this project? What are the inclusions? What are the exclusions? What is the main objective of the project? What are the various tasks that are performed? How many stages are there? How many phases are there for this project? What are the tasks that are really performed at each of the phases? When is the money brought in? Is it everything? Is the whole investment happening in one go at the beginning, or is it a phased wise investment? Right? What are the various stages in the investment cycle? What are the key financial parameters? What is the expected return on this investment? What is the expected risk out of this investment? And other financial parameters that are associated with this particular project. And how are we measuring the output? Is it measured in terms of volume? Is it measured in terms of some ratios? What is the various measurement mechanisms that are associated with this project? And what is the success criteria? When do we say that this particular project is successful? Who is the sponsor? Who are the various stakeholders? What is the responsibility of each and every member of the project team? What is the responsibility of the management? For what items are they responsible for and for what items they are not responsible for? All these elements go as a part of the very detailed project scope document. Only based on that project scope document, the appraisal process is going to happen. So whenever we are looking at the actual appraisal process, we talk about evaluation of the cash flows. The major components of the cash flows, okay, is there any capital expenditure? When I say capital expenditure, yes, purchase of machines or probably purchase of vehicles, one time heavy purchases, right? Probably I could think of plants, equipment or property. So these are all where I can use them over multiple financial periods. We are calling them as capital expenditures. So making a note of the capital expenditure, how much is done at what point in time. The regular running costs, which are the operational expenses, at what point in time, what are the operational expenses. Revenues, again at different points in time on an annual basis, what are the revenues that are coming out of this project, and if at all the project is surrendered towards the end, sold off, any particular equipment is sold off, any machine is sold off, any property is disposed, what are the costs and what are the benefits, revenues that are coming out of on the termination of the project. So whenever we talk about the cash flows, so this is called as initial capital outlay, the regular operating revenues and expenses, and these are the typical terminating expenses and revenues. Generally, they are expressed in terms of the present day money values. They don't, we generally don't include all the financing related costs. Interest is not included while computing the cash flow because this is more irrespective of whatever is the source of financing the project. It is purely the projects related. It's not the financing related cash flows. Project. Project wise, how much of revenue and the expenses that it is generating at different points in time. So we don't include the financing costs. We don't include the depreciation because depreciation is just a virtual spreading of the cost. It's not a real cash flow that is incurred, and we do not consider even the inflationary aspects in it. But in some cases, we may really think of bringing in even the price inflation also into picture. And if there are any other activities or costs that are getting influenced by this particular project, external benefits or external costs that are going to be there, even they need to be incorporated as a part of the cash flows. And whatever is the scope, actual definition, evaluation, very much important for us. So choosing the right procedure for evaluating the cash flows and the worthiness of the project is very much important, which means whatever we are assuming regarding the future, regarding the numbers for the future for different kinds of cash flows, the growth rates or discounting factors, we need to have a very strong base in terms of choosing them, right? So that's what goes as a part of the initial appraisal process for a capital project, right?